Hello and welcome to our very first video lesson for geometry this year. We're going to be starting right away with Chapter 1, Lesson 1, which covers points, lines, and planes. And so this is your first exposure to what a lesson video looks like in my class for the flipped learning style. And since it's that way, it's going to be important to follow along and listen very carefully this first time through. This video might end up a little bit longer just because I have to explain some things, but this is about what it would look through. You need to make sure that you have your note packet with you ready to start Lesson 1.1. Should look like this, and we'll start filling things in right away. You'll have a definition of undefined terms that we look at and some other things there, so make sure you have this page out and ready, and we will kind of go through our notes, but you'll see pages like this on the screen. Alright, there's going to be times when I ask you to pause the video and answer something yourself, and then when you're ready you'll click play and continue. So listen for that time and just make sure you follow along carefully. If you have any other questions that you're not sure what I said, you can always pause and go back, replay something, listen to it again to help you understand it better. And other than that, you want to make sure that you ask any questions, or if you have any questions, you ask them in class. And so as you're going through your notes, any of the notes pages, you can mark up or make a little note to yourself to ask a question about that example later on in class. And that's how we'll start class on Monday. So let's get started right away with our very first video lesson 1.1, Points, Lines, and Planes. So in the past, you have used basic geometry concepts and properties to solve problems. Now you're going to be identifying and modeling points, lines, and planes, and identify intersecting lines and planes. And so there's some new vocabulary for you. Alright, we're going to learn what an undefined term is, what a point, line, and plane are. You're going to learn about collinear and coplanar, intersection, definition, defined term, and space. Now, these are all highlighted words in your text, and we're going to write definitions for some of these, but for several of them I've already given you the definitions. So this is going to be important later on Monday when we look at this in class and look at our notes to review. We're going to talk some more about what to do with vocabulary. Alright, but we're going to get started right away by looking at what an undefined term is. Okay, an undefined term, or undefined terms, are geometric terms that have no real definition. They just exist on their own, and so we talk about them because they're kind of the building blocks of what we end up using for geometry. And so that's what undefined terms are. We'll look at that specific definition later on. But here are your undefined terms. A point is a location. It has neither shape nor size. And so you will see that it says that it is represented by a dot in your notes, and then you'll have a column where it says name at the top. And so this is what I want you to write down where it says name. Okay, we name it by using a capital letter, and then in your example, write point A. Put all those in the name box, and then underneath where it says diagram, you're going to draw this. You're going to mark a point and label it with capital A. We could use any capital letter to name a point, and we would not want to name two different points with the same capital letter. Alright, now if I string all the possible points together on a certain pathway, we get what's called a line. A line is made up of points and has no thickness or width. There's exactly one line through any 2 points. That's a very important piece of the puzzle. So under the name box here, you're going to say the letters representing 2 points on the line, or a lowercase script letter. Alright, so you're going to write this under the name box. Hopefully you have enough room. And then you're also going to give some examples. Alright, so that's how to fill in that part. If you'll need to pause the video to be able to do that, you can do that now. Alright, hopefully you're caught up with this. Again, if you need to pause, go ahead. But otherwise, we're going to continue. This is the diagram I want you to put for what a line is. You'll notice we have points P and Q to help us understand this line, or we can call it line M. Okay, we can use that lowercase script or cursive letter to label a line also. Otherwise, you have to use the capital letters of 2 points on the line. Alright, but make sure you do draw that diagram. Alright, and then our next undefined term is a plane. A plane is a flat surface made up of points that extends infinitely in all directions. There's exactly one plane through any 3 points not on the same line. So I have 3 points in my example that are not on the same line. They define or determine that plane. Think of a plane as a sheet of paper extending forever. And if I have at least 3 points that are not all lined up, that gives me an idea of how that plane should be thought of. There's ways we can name this plane. We can name it with a capital script letter, okay, or like capital cursive letter, or by the 3 points that are not on the same line. Okay, so we could call this plane BCD, BDC, CDB, anything like that, or just call it plane K. Most of the time we're just going to call it plane K. But again, write all of this in the box where it says name, and then try your best to draw this diagram. Okay, so you're going to draw what looks like a parallelogram. You're going to put the points on there and label it plane K. All right, let's move right along so we can try and condense this video as short as possible. These are your undefined terms. So we have to be able to recognize certain things in these examples. So in example 1, we're going to use this figure here to name the following. Part A, name a line containing point K. So we're going to find point K, and we realize that there is a drawn line that goes through that. We can either call it line A with a script letter A, try and make it as cursive or curvy as you can, or we can call it line JK, JL, KL, anything like that. And here's how we define that. Okay, you're going to pick 2 letters. I'm going to pick J and K. You could pick any of those 3 letters of those 3 points. And then we're going to draw a line above it. This is how you have to name it. Okay. Now, the word line here is optional, but you have to use this notation to name a line. To name a plane containing point M, there's a couple different ways. Point M is here. This plane B, you could say plane, P-L-A-N-E, B, sorry, pen stuck. Or you can say plane and then pick 3 points that are not on the same line. So if I pick J and K, I'd want to pick point M, not L. Okay? And that's 2 ways you can name a plane containing that point. So we're going to try this again in example 2. Now, I want you guys to use what we've just done in example 1 and try and do example 2. You'll need to pause the video to give yourself enough time to do that. But whenever you're ready, you should see. You should be able to click play and see what your answers could be. All right, if you need more time, pause the video. Otherwise, let's take a look at these answers. Here's what we should get. In this figure, a line containing point X would be anything on line C, so you could call it line C, or use the 2 letters, like X, Y. You might have said XQ or QY or in a different order, and that's okay. And then a plane containing point Y. Point Y is on this line, which is all on plane P. So most likely we'll just call it plane P. All right, let's keep going. Now we have this concept or idea of what collinear points are. Collinear points are points that lie on the same line. Co meaning with, linear meaning on a line. So they're together or with each other on the same line. Coplanar, again, points that lie in the same plane. So example 3 asks us to name 3 collinear points. Well, we're going to take a look at the 3 lines we could use. Okay, and there's only one that has 3 marked points on it, and that's the line that contains A, B, and D. So we're going to say A, B, and D. That's the answer to number 3. All right, example 4, we're going to name 4 coplanar points, meaning points that lie in the same plane. So what we have here is a picture of kind of a rectangular base with lines extending up to the corners. You're basically looking at a pyramid. That's essentially what this diagram is supposed to look like. So 4 points that are on the same plane would have to be the 4 corners of the base that are marked, A, B, C, and D. All right? Any other points that would maybe use E, E is not on the same plane as these other ones. Then it says to name 3 lines, and so we're going to practice naming lines again. So we're going to pick any 2 points at a time, like A and E, and then we put that line notation above AE. We could say EA also. Okay, so you might also have BE or CE. Okay, you could call AB a line and just imply that it goes on forever, because I could extend it and it would do so, but for the most part we're going to use the ones that have arrows that go on forever. All right. All right, and that gets us to another vocabulary term called an intersection. An intersection is the set of points, two or more. Okay, that word point should actually be after the word two or more. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. Ignore that. The set of points that two or more geometric figures have in common. There you go. I had to read the rest of the sentence. All right, intersection is where two or more geometric figures cross, or the points they have in common. So here's what you need to know. If two lines intersect, they intersect in a point, or at a point. Okay? But if two planes intersect, okay, I'll use some note cards here to help you see this. If I have two planes and they intersect, okay, they intersect at a line. Two planes will always intersect in a line. All right? So now we get to practice drawing a little bit. All right? When it says sketch a figure, that just means to the best of your ability, try and draw what this says. So here's our first example where we have to sketch a figure. We want to sketch a figure that has lines A and B intersecting at point P. So we just need two lines that intersect. We'll call one of them line A, one of them line B, and they intersect at point P. So I want to label things as I'm supposed to. All right. We also now want to draw line WD that is lying in plane P. So I'm going to start by drawing plane P. And to draw a plane on a piece of paper, you're going to draw what looks like a parallelogram to the best of your ability. You're going to call it plane P. Then we're going to put WD that lies on that plane. Think of drawing a line on a piece of paper. This is our piece of paper. We're drawing this line on the piece of paper. And put points W and D on the line. All right? That should look like that. And then on part C, we're going to draw two lines intersecting in one point in a plane, but only one of the lines is on the plane. Now this is kind of confusing. So what we're going to have is a plane. Okay, we're going to have a line on the plane, but then another line is going to go down through the plane and only intersect at that one point. And so we're going to start by drawing our plane, and they didn't give us labels here, so we don't have to label it. Okay, one line is going to intersect another line. One line is on the plane, so when I draw a solid line, that means it is all on that. But I'm going to draw another line coming down here, and I'm going to make a stopping point there. And to show that it goes below the plane or on the other side, I'm going to use a dotted line to show that that part is invisible until you can start to see it again. So it looks something like that. All right, and then our last part here is to draw points R, M, and D that are collinear, but then a third point that is not. And so we're going to draw a line, because collinear means on the same line. We're going to mark points R, M, and D on that line. And it really doesn't even matter the order. But then we're going to put point A up here that is not on the line. All right, so that's a general idea of how to draw those. If you need to go back and rewatch any of that, go right ahead. I went kind of fast. But otherwise, if you have any questions about the drawing part, you can ask me in class. All right, and we now have one final example. Okay, and so this is our diagram, and we're going to use this diagram to answer these questions. Example 6. How many planes appear in the figure? Well, you can see we have plane T, but remember any 3 points determine a plane. And so it appears that I also have this other plane, ABR, okay, this other shape that kind of intersects there. So I'm going to say that there are 2 planes that appear in the figure. All right? We want to name the intersection of plane T, that's the darkened in plane that you can see, with line BN. So BN is this line, and notice that this line only intersects this plane at one point, and that would be point R. And you can just write capital R. Part C, you want to name the intersection of plane T and plane ABR. Now you can see that we are confirming that this parallelogram looking shape is considered to determine another plane. So we want to name the intersection of 2 planes, and you might recall that the intersection of 2 planes is a line. So ABR touches plane T along this line can call it XR, OR, XO,